guys. So good to see all of you. It's just so lovely to see all of your faces on my screen. So imagine right now, and you're this gray, mushy matter, and you're trying to get out, and you're trying to see what's going on in the world, but you're kind of locked in this jail cell that is your skull. And it's this bony skull, and you're kind of sick of tired of just seeing it all day long, and you want to break free because you as the brain have no sound available to you. You have no lights available to you. It's dark, and there's nothing. And so how do you know? How do you learn what's happening in the world? All you have are these electrical impulses, right, that are coming in, and we're trying to figure out, as the brain, we're trying to figure out what is happening. And all we know is that we're getting these impulses, and we have these expectations and these beliefs and all of the things underneath our iceberg that are being married to these electrical impulses to create really nothing more than informed guesswork. It's our perception. And our perception is, of course, as you all know, our reality. There really isn't a real reality, right? And so what we consciously see depends on our brain's best guess of what's out there. So our experience really comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. And this is really important to what Rich was saying, right? Because Rich, you were talking very eloquently about authenticity and just being real. And it's interesting because just how, especially with what's going on in the country this last weekend, right? We can misperceive our world. And if we can misperceive our world, we can misperceive ourselves, because it's the same mechanisms that are allowing us to perceive what's happening, to create our perception, our reality, that is also telling us what's going on with ourselves. So we can be miscalibrated, right? So I want to say that first. So we should always be curious. We should always be asking questions. And a lot of, I work with the big egos, right? With the CEOs of the big egos. I work with a lot of surgeons and a lot of attorneys, and I love these guys, right? It's a puzzle every time.
People like Gary, you mean?
That's another support group, Nicole. And it's very, very interesting because, as Nicole mentioned, we get in our own way. And think about this, right? I'm gonna write something down for you. So think about this. 125, I don't know if you can even see this, but 125 to 250. You know what that is? That is the amount of words per minute that we can listen to. So we listen to 125 to 250 words per minute. Do you know that we think at 1,000 to 3,000 words per minute? So think about that, right? So as people are talking and we're having a hard time understanding them.
Does that apply to men too, Carol?
What's that?
I said, does that apply to men too?
Oh gosh, I have so much to say about that, Pong. My husband's in the other room. It's very interesting because there are gender differences. We do notice some gender differences, and we only recall about 50% of what we hear, and that's immediately after hearing it. So back to men and our husbands, you husbands out there, if you've ever heard your wife say, "So, did you hear what I said to you?" And you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey." You can bring this back and say, "Listen, don't judge me. I'm only listening at 125 words a minute, and you're speaking at 3,000 words a minute, right?" And so we only remember, after it's done, we remember about 20% of what we hear. So this is really key to understanding how to be a great listener. and how to get that business and how to be a great person in your family and a great colleague to our provisors members, right? Because that listening will make or break you in every part of your life. My surgeons, and I love my surgeons interrupt their patients about 70% of the time and within 15 to 20 seconds of the conversation starting. Think about that, right? So this patient is coming in and they're saying, this is, what I need, and these are my symptoms, and the surgeon automatically wants to go in with, yeah, we should have surgery on this, or we should do this, or we should do this. And the patient is feeling like, dude, you haven't even heard what I have. You didn't even hear that I'm having this other symptom or this other symptom. And then we have problems, and then they invite me in to talk to the surgeon on how to be, right, how to be better with the patients. But a lot of surgeons are like that. And if we look at attorneys, there are a lot of attorneys here, right? If we look at attorneys, at least my clients, none of you do this, but a lot of my clients, they tend to interrupt about 75% of the time, and they do it within 10 to 15 seconds of the start of the conversation. Yeah, that's huge. And so it, automatically that first impression and how you make someone feel is going to dictate what happens with that relationship and what happens when, if they need a second opinion or not, right? And here's the interesting thing too, before we get into how to bore people and how to be boring. Now that we're on Zoom, you guys know that our communication is about 93% nonverbal, right? We pretty much all know that. It's only 7% the words that we actually say, right? So what happens is, and the reason why we're seeing a lot of fatigue around Zoom lately, and we've been talking a lot about it, is because when we're in person, right, I can get really close to you. Let's hope I took a shower that day, right? I could get really close to you, and you can see my facial expressions. And even if I get further away from you, first of all, that tells you something, right? But you could see my posture, you can see my attitude, my feeling about something, and still be paying attention to what's happening in the room, still be paying attention to the speaker in the room. And with Zoom, all you've got to go by, and a lot of people don't speak with their hands like I do. I know I'm, like, imagine, right? I talk with my hands all the time. But most people don't. And we don't see their hands, so you don't know if they're fidgeting. You don't know if they're hiding their hands. So our brains, our poor little brains that are dying to get out into the world are also now having to work harder to figure out, how you should judge this person emotionally, right? Are they credible? Do you want to do business with them? Is this somebody that you like, that you trust? Back to the provisor stuff, right? All of these things become harder, not impossible, but harder. And so it consumes a lot of our energy, and it's exhausting. So there are things that you can do to become a better listener on Zoom. And one of the things that you can do, and again, I'll get to how to be boring in a minute, but one of the things that you can do is hide your face. Because I know most, if not all of you, are looking at your face right now and wondering, if you look good, if you need to shift your hair. I've done that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you can't see the scarf. I'm gonna, show you my stuff. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And here's the problem, that when you're looking at your face and there's a facial expression on your face that is not, smiling and friendly, what happens is that feedback back to you leads to more intense emotions. So when we're in person, like when I'm looking at Gary in person, right, and he's giving me that look, I'm like, please, just enough, Carol, right? That, to me, I can process that. And that can the outcome will be just a normal emotion that you would feel when anybody does that. Of course, Gary's a little different. I think I would just laugh. But it's important to understand that when you're frustrated and you're upset and you're confused or anything's going on with your face and you're looking at that, you're going to be a worse listener and you're going to distract yourself. So stop it. Don't look at yourself. Nobody cares. The other thing is silence. In person, us speakers, we know the power of silence. And you guys, as successful entrepreneurs and CEOs and powerful people, work with powerful people, also know that silence is very powerful. But on Zoom, silence could mean that you froze, or that you got, then Nicole booted you out, right? It could mean a lot of different things. And so you can't use silence the same way on Zoom. You've got to be very careful. And here's why. Because 1 second, just 1 second delay makes others perceive you as less friendly as a speaker, and also as a listener, less engaging. Or less engaged, I should say, and less focused. Very important. So your job to be the best that you can be is to speak in such a way that others love to listen to you, and to listen in such a way that others love to talk to you, right? That's why your clients are your clients. That's why they call you when they're in a mess like this, because they know you care. They know you respect them. And they love how you listen to them. So in order to continue the themes that Rich started around—
5 minutes, by the way. 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, gosh. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we're going to turn this on its head. Now I'm going to be like 2 times, 4 times like it is a video. Okay, so we're going to turn this on its head, and we're going to talk about something that your brain is going to kind of wonder why we're talking about that, right? Because nobody wants to be more boring and nobody wants to be bored. But we're going to do that to get your brain out of reactive listening and into proactive learning. Okay, so let's talk about how to be boring. And this, or how to be bored. Let's do how to be bored first, okay? So this works especially well when you want to damage relationships or lose prospects quickly. Listen to this, okay? The first thing you've got to do is be boring to yourself. Just bore the hell out of yourself. Train your brain to not get excited about anything. You know these people, because I know some of these people. Now, step 2, expect to be pleased by others at all times. Expect them to bow down to you and make you happy, okay? That's another one. Step 3, take 0 interest in their concerns, their worries. Make sure that you make them feel that they don't matter and that you don't really have a lot of respect for them, and honestly that you just don't care. Hear them, but don't attend to them, okay? And then when you're listening, don't ever nod, don't ever go like this or anything like that. Don't ever take notes, because who the heck cares what they're saying? And then don't ever smile or give them any kind of feedback that what you're hearing is good, okay? And if they say something that you disagree with, make sure to think to yourself, what the heck is he thinking that about? Make some sort of a judgment about them that makes you dislike them more, instead of thinking, oh, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe they have information that I don't have, and get curious, right? You don't want to do that if you want to be bored. And then lastly, don't pay attention to anything except the actual words that they are saying, okay? That's how to be bored out of your mind. And please, under no circumstance should you ever pick up a pen and start taking notes on what they're saying, okay? Because we want you to be as bored as possible. All right, let's talk about being a boring speaker. Number 1, your presence. Have none. Just don't have a presence. Just try to blend into the background and kind of slouch. And don't speak with confidence, and look down as much as possible. And if you know that there are a lot of people, pretend that they're not there and just keep talking. And improvisers meetings, how about this? To bore the heck out of people, say your name first and then tell them what to do. Right? The last thing you want to do is be memorable. You want to be quickly forgotten. That's number 1. Step number 2, look like you don't want to be there. Because if you look like you enjoy talking, they might ask you to speak some more, and you don't want that. And if you're giving a testimonial, make sure it's all about you. This is your time to shine. Nobody wants to hear about the other person. This is all about you. You know, just make sure that you're the rock star, right? Make sure you shine and just say thank you, you know, like, thank you, Mark Henkin. But don't say anything about them, right? Let's just talk more about you and just bore the heck out of them. Step number 3, if you use PowerPoints, nothing wrong with PowerPoints as long as they're used well. If you do use PowerPoints, make sure to add as many words as possible on the screen, right? I mean, that's why the slide is so big, because it's kind of like a contest to see who's going to win the world record for being able to fit as many words as possible on the slide. So go for it. Just write and write and write and write, and don't have any space in between the words. And here's the most important thing about that is step number 4. Next thing is you want to read the slide word by word, right? So look at it. So like look at it, and don't look at your audience, and then read it as if they can't read it. And then it's kind of like you're their audible. And the best thing about it is that if you're really boring, if you're doing your job, they can use you as kind of the audiobook that they drift off to right before they go to sleep. So do that. Step number 5, speak with zero emotion. I try to speak.
You can't even do it.
I know, I can't even do it. My husband's an engineer, and sometimes I listen in on these phone calls, and they're so funny. They all speak in this monotone manner, and they all like it's okay. Like they all get it. They're all as engaged as they are. I mean, it would bore me to death, but that's why we're so different, right? But make sure that if you want to bore someone, just speak with no emotion, and make sure that it is monotone. Step 6. Back to the PowerPoint.
Is this the last one?
No, are we done?
Almost. We got 2 more minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna skip the no pictures, and I'm gonna not talk more about the nonverbals, and I'm not gonna talk about boasting your accomplishments. You want to definitely do that. If you went to Harvard and Yale and all that, please just talk about it all the time. People love that stuff, right? And it'll never, ever give them the message that you're compensating for some shortcomings. And then lastly, never tell stories that might engage them emotionally in any way, okay? You don't want them to feel anything emotionally. Now, done. Now we're going to go with the take. Good? Yes?
With the what?
Takeaways.
Yes. Go.
Yeah. Okay, kick-ass speaker. How to be a kick-ass speaker. So never start with so this is what to do now, right? So whether you're speaking to a big crowd or to one person, never start with the intention to get their attention, okay? Focus on being the best version of yourself in public and nothing more. Focus on what they need to hear and not on what you want to say. And don't worry so much about saying the right thing. Worry more about conveying the right message. Worry more about connecting with them, right? And improvisers, if you're in a meeting, improvisers, and you're speaking, give examples that tie what you do to what their clients do or to what they might need. Those examples have to be colorful. You have to plant a vision in their head that they can taste and smell and see. And then lastly, on being a kick-ass speaker is don't worry about attracting everybody. Don't worry about, hoping that everyone joins your tribe. You attract like-minded people to you, and that's what you want. And nobody looks for perfection when you're a speaker. Nobody cares for that. What they want is authenticity, as you can see, because I am so far from perfect when I speak. But, it's okay. The important thing is to be authentic and to take the masks off. Now, listen.
We're going to go through a lightning round, I think.
Okay.
People have questions, and we want to make sure they get answers.
Okay, let's go. Give it to me.
We warned her ahead of time.
You did, and I always do this. Go, tell me.
Quick question for you. How do you listen and stop thinking when your brain wants to think while you're listening?
Excellent question. So this is what I tell my clients, and it works very well. You should try it. So before you enter a conversation that's important, take a piece of paper and jot down everything that's on your mind. Just have a mind dump, okay? Nobody's gonna look at that, only you. But you're basically saying, you know what? I'm going to take care of you. Don't you worry, but I'm gonna put you on paper for now. And then you take that same pen and you say to the person, hey, listen, is it okay that I take notes? Because what you say matters to me. And so both of those things gets you out of your mind and out of that voice that is incessantly talking and into completely being present.
That's great. What about tone and speech? Like Vicky, she's got a huge asset in regards to her great accent. But any recommendations on how to improve somebody's tone and speed of their voice?
Yes. So firstly, if you don't know how you sound, videotape yourself or have someone videotape you. You're going to learn a lot. It's not easy. It's really tough, but do it. Secondly, think about the message. Right? What is the outcome that you want in whatever conversation you're having or speaking engagement? And then determine the tone. Then determine if you should yell or if you should speak very softly. Then determine if you should pause or if you should speak faster. Right? And don't let your face betray you, because sometimes your face speaks louder than your words. And so you've got to feel what you say.
What about when, like I have this issue where I'm constantly looking at myself because the beauty just shines through. How do you get rid of that distraction?
How do you get
Everybody's laughing.
Because I have you literally pinned up all over my office.
As everybody should.
That is concerning in so many ways.
So you're asking, how do I not want to look at myself? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and whether it's looking at yourself or it's other distractions, how do you eliminate those distractions?
So the listening with a pen does wonders, because you're literally focused and your job is to take as many notes as possible. And so you're going to be focused and really honed in, but then also have a place for questions that you might have for the speaker or for the, when there's a pause. And just, it takes practice though, Gary, I have to say. It really does take practice. But once you're in it, if you're truly engaged, you're going to get curious and you're going to get better and better at it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you had said early on, and I think this is just the brilliance, is listening allows you to close more business, because like you were talking about the example of your surgeon, that, when I had to go through knee surgery, I went to a few surgeons, and the person that I picked was the one who spent time with me. Everybody else walks in, they're like, okay, this is what you need to do, do it or not. Whereas the other person, the last surgeon, really walked me through, and it made me feel comfortable, and he got the business. It's, Rich will attest to this, but whenever you're training salespeople, their number one thing is listen. We always say the ratio 2 to 1. You've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them accordingly. But how would you, and I know this isn't the case for everybody here, but how would you tell somebody who doesn't have a time filter, that just wants to go on and on and on and on and on? You've seen them in meetings. They stand up, or in here there's Zoom, and they just continue to go and blab and blab and blab. How would you, if I'm one of those individuals who blabs, how would you recommend I stop? Like, is it I got to have my phone with me that has a timer? What's your recommendation on those to put it down?
So first of all, you have to make sure that your feedback is wanted. Don't go giving someone feedback if they don't want it or if they're not asking for it. So the first thing you do is ask for permission, and you say, hey, Gary, so I noticed that you wanted to get a lot of stuff in, and I'm guilty of this all the time, as you can probably imagine, but I noticed that you wanted to get a lot of stuff in the minute that you had to speak. Would you like some feedback on maybe some things that would work for you, right? most of the time you're going to hear a yes. Then that's when you say, okay, so tell me what you want them to feel and come out with. What do you want them to remember? And work backwards, right? So help them paint that picture, that story. For me, it was the whole Lion Tamer thing was around that client throwing a chair across the room, right? When I was telling that story, that's when that thing was born. And so it's getting that story to be so visual and so vivid that they can say it like this.
We have a repeat question, Gary.
We do?
We have people echoing the same question, and I actually am guilty of it too. I feel like, Carol, when you take notes and you've got a Zoom meeting going, people think you might be emailing or doing something else, but you're actually taking notes about the meeting. So any thoughts on how we could help rectify that feeling?
Yeah, so what it actually helps me is that now I've stopped taking, unless it's a client that knows what I'm doing. But when you're in one of those forums where, you know, you've got 50 people or 80, 100, what you want to do, if you can, is have the screen that you're taking notes on the same screen that you're looking at everybody with. So you have half of the screen with your videos and half of the screen with the Word document or the OneNote or wherever. I take notes on OneNote. So that's what I do. And then when I'm taking notes, because I'm listening, but I'm taking notes, nobody can tell.
It's a good idea.